everybody, I'm Violinist Grace and Kwon, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be learning the Minuet number 1. So by the time my kids get to Minuet 1, I ask all my students to please think about 3 things when you get new piece of music. Number 1, the brute facts. That's everything that you already see on the page that you have already learned by this point. That's time signature, key signature, accidentals, all that fun stuff that's in the actual music to kind of just look it over, make sure you know your rhythms and you have an idea of what all the notes are. Second is left hand. Usually for my kiddos, that means strips. Or if you don't need strips, intonation, make sure you're playing the right notes, not something that's considered around the note, okay? Like, let's hit an exact address. And then the third thing is right hand. Right hand is everything from bow distribution, bow speed, and articulation. By this point, most kids have learned articulation. You know, something like lines and dots and accents. Those are different types of articulations. Hopefully you have not been taught that staccato means short, because that's not what staccato means. And especially for violin, we have staccato, which is a form of articulation, and staccato, a form of bow technique. Hopefully your teachers have made that clear. In case they haven't, staccato does not mean short. I know that for some piano teachers, to emphasize the actual technique of staccato, they use short, short, short. A dot on top of the note can be categorized as the articulation staccato. A dot on top of a note just means separated. Now, how separated? Like, is it da, or is it da, dong? That's the articulation. So let's talk about those 3 things. If you already went through step 1, which was brute facts, this is in G major, 1 sharp. It's in 3/4, and it's called a minuet. If you don't know what a minuet was a dance. It was a dance based on 1. So 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3. You can think of it like a old school waltz. So let's use that information and go to step 2, intonation, which hopefully we just addressed. Or if you don't know where all your notes are, please quickly do a G major scale. If you're one of my students, and if you're a kiddo, then you guys have strips to stick true to the don't fret. If you guys don't know what don't fret is, I'll put the link down below. It's a great resource. They have multiples. They have just ones with colors. That's the one I recommend to all my students, but if they don't want to get it, then I put strips on their violin. So those are the strips that I recommend. If you don't need strips, congratulations, just make sure you're really on point. Now step 3 is the bow distribution. I think the bow distribution is probably the most important thing here. So on the first note, it has a line with the dot. So what this means is it's long, but you see that dot underneath? It means it is separated. So not da, da, da. That's not the right articulation. It's da, da, da. So anytime you see this staccato sign, this dot on top of the note, please just remember, first and foremost, it just means separate. Ta-da! Just separate it from the note before and the note after. So we already talked about the dot and the line. The line, obviously, it's longer than the 2 notes that have dot dot. They're trying to distinguish the difference. Bach actually did not use these tools. It was not used during the Baroque period. It wasn't used. Here in the Suzuki, they're using it specifically to teach the students. It's still separate, and then those are more crispier because 1, they use less bow, and 2, they are less in weight. All right, now step 3 is the bow distribution. I think the bow distribution is probably the most important thing here. Whole bow, half, half, whole, half, half, whole bow, whole, half, half, 1, 2, 3, 1, and then these are smooth, smooth, 2, 3, and that last note is of course a slow bow. Why? Because we have 3 beats versus 1. Now, hopefully you heard the articulation difference between that and then hopefully you heard the difference, right? 1 is super legato, and yes, I just said legato for legato. 1 is super legato and 1 spaced. has a little lilt. Now, if you don't want to do it that way, you can do it like real Baroque-ish. That's more idealistic. But usually at book 1, most kids, you know, it's not about playing like that. Historical performance practice isn't on the top of every teacher's list at book 1 for a 6-year-old. So it's okay, it's up to you. I don't know who's watching. It might be a 6-year-old, it might be a 25-year-old, it might be a 60-year-old. You do you. But I'm just letting you know those are what the dots means, dot line means, and the ones without any articulation can be legato the way I just played it. Now, here's the fun part. There's repeats because, you know, it's Baroque music. So here we go. 1, 2, 3. There's a repeat. So how do we do a repeat when they're both down? So we hold as long as possible. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1. So if you feel uncomfortable, lift on and. I say try to like at least go a little past when you say the word and then do a quick retake. Please do not do this. 1, 2, 3. We don't have time for slow-mo. We don't need slow-mo. We don't need 1, 2, 3. We don't need clipping. I promise you, every single person, if they just make the effort, I promise you can have a flawless retake. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Now, the retake landing is quite important. Hopefully you guys learned in song 3, the Song of the Wind, the importance of the retake. But we'll review here. 1, 2, 3, and 1. When you go, you want to go fast and then slow it just slow it down and then already be moving on a dambo. That way you don't collide into the string. There are 3 things that's going to make you that kind of sound. 3 things. Wrong pressure or quick extreme change of pressure, a sudden change of speed, and then just slops a lot. Just sloppy playing. So first off, we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so as long as you don't go 1, 2, 3, hit, or 1, 2, 3, press too hard, or 1, 2, 3, use a slow bow when you start, you won't make those kinds of noises. And because it's a repeat, you have the option to play it a little differently. You can use the classic echo technique. Echo, 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 echo. Which means the second time is not as loud as the first time. The repeat. 1, 2, now quiet. Notice how I'm using the bow. So what I did was I took the whole bow and just condensed it. I used ratio bow distribution, which means instead of whole bow, I just used half bow, but in the same portion. Instead of using half here, I just used half of that ration bow. All right, so pretend we did the echo. 2, 3. Now, is this piano here? You can. 3, 1, 2, 3. So the bow distribution here, if you want to play piano, there are 2 methods. Either use less, well, 3, I guess. Use less pressure, or use less bow, or do both. I'm going to do both. 1, 2, 3. So I'm still using that ration bow instead of the whole thing. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1. So here I used a little Baroque lilt. Now I'm going to play with the bow stroke that most of, the beginners usually play with. Ration bow. Now I tell them to use more bow here because mezzo forte. You don't have to use whole bow if you don't want to. I like to. Now we go back to ration bow. Half, 2, 3, and I tell my kids to crescendo here just because that's personally my little jive there. But you can keep it 2, 3, suddenly loud if you choose. But I like that natural growth because the piano part has descending line there and it kind of grows into it. You know what I mean? 1, 2, 3, and that's when you add pressure and control the speed. We do not slow down and add pressure at the same time. Imagine if you do that to a car. That's why a car shrieks at you when you go and the car screeches to a halt. We're gonna try to avoid that. So as we add pressure, we add, there, go faster. That's what I recommend. 1, 2, 3, 1. And it'll give you that crescendo that I'm recommending. If you just add pressure without the speed, 1, 2, that's what's gonna happen. So let's use a little speed here, okay? 1, 2, 3, big sound, big sound. 1, 2, 3, and then we take. You can go back to piano. Some of my kids like to play forte the second time. It's up to you. 1. 2, 3, quiet. 1, thumb, and 1, 2, 3. And I like a big forte to the end. Why not? We're in Suzuki Book 1. We want the kids to have what I call drama bow. 1, 2, 3, off. You know, let's have some drama. Otherwise, you can go 1, 2, 3, off. A decay is normal as well because in Baroque period it would have decayed anyway. But if you want a big drama finish, you can sustain and just keep the bow going even though the bow no longer touches the string. And ta-da! Just like that, you have learned Minuet number 1. Hopefully you guys had fun. I had fun making this tutorial, and if you guys want to see more, make sure to go check out my Patreon. I started a Mendelssohn tutorial series where you get a little snippet once a month on there, and there's actually more to come, like Minuet 2 will be either on my website or on Patreon, so go check it out. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and make sure to subscribe, turn notification, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace! Have fun practicing, y'all!